Although Johann Sebastian Bach's Mass in B minor has long been considered one of the greatest works in the classical canon, its history is complicated. He started composing the piece in the early 1730s, a period he described as one of almost continual vexation, envy, and persecution. Bach was in his late 40s and serving as director of music in Leipzig, where he oversaw musical activities at the city's 4 churches. He was also responsible for the education of several hundred boys at St. Thomas, a public boarding school for the poor. Overworked, underpaid, and constantly fighting with his supervisors on the city council, Bach was thinking about finding a new job. He set his sights on Dresden, a city with an enterprising musical culture governed by a new monarch, Friedrich Augustus II. Assembling what may have been the greatest job application in the history of Western music, Bach petitioned Dresden's new sovereign to appoint him as court composer. His obsequiously worded request was attached to a package containing what he described as a trifling product, a set of handsomely rendered parts for a Kyrie and a Gloria, the first 2 sections of the Catholic Mass. It was a tactical gesture. Although Friedrich Augustus was raised as a Protestant, his new realm extended to the Catholic lands of Poland and Lithuania, requiring his conversion to Roman Catholicism. It's fair to ask, why would a Lutheran as devout as Bach write Catholic sacred music? It seems like the sort of transactional maneuver that would be completely out of character for a composer of such unimpeachable artistic integrity. In fact, this was an area in which Protestant doctrine was somewhat fluid. Martin Luther had actually favored a version of the Mass service that included both traditional Latin texts and the vernacular. This gave rise to a genre of sacred music known as the Lutheran Mass, in which composers restricted themselves to settings of the Kyrie and the Gloria. In the event, none of it mattered. Bach's petition didn't result in anything more than a small stipend and a symbolic title. He'd spend the rest of his life in Leipzig, working in relative professional obscurity. He later filled out the piece by adding the 3 remaining movements of the traditional Mass, the Credo, the Sanctus, and the Agnus Dei. This expansion reflected a tendency that became especially pronounced during his final decade, when Bach produced a series of works that inventory his staggering mastery as a composer. Celebrated examples include the Art of the Fugue, the Musical Offering, and the Goldberg Variations for keyboard. Bach's B minor Mass is simply another one of these grand summations, a joyous catalog of his skills as a composer of sacred music that employs every important Baroque style and form. The creation of the B minor Mass was more about assembly and revision than composing a new work. In Bach's time, composers didn't place the sort of premium on originality that developed a century later in the wake of Beethoven. Needing to meet the demand for a constant stream of new music, they routinely converted old pieces into new ones. Bach used this so-called parody technique throughout the B minor Mass, taking movements from a wide range of his cantatas and fitting them to the traditional Latin text. The result was a work of stunning variety, in which monumental choruses, florid arias, tender love duets, virtuoso instrumental solos, and earthy dance music are combined, through Bach's unparalleled creative skill, into a coherent whole. By incorporating the narrative-based visceral quality of Lutheran worship into the formal context of the Catholic Mass, Bach crafted a comprehensive humanistic utterance that's at once dramatic and deeply spiritual. His B minor Mass is both a consecration and a celebration of the life and work of the man many consider history's greatest composer.